Sean Salisbury here for Open Sports. Let's talk about Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and where Ben Roethlisberger and Kurt Warner fit in, if in fact, are they in the top 10 Super Bowl quarterbacks of all time now? And will they be if they get their second Super Bowl ring? Either one of them. They're both playing now to win their second one. Ben Roethlisberger doing it in, 5 seasons, may have a second Super Bowl ring. That's when you start to have to creep in there, because multiple Super Bowl winners got to be in your top 10, because especially when you've played in 2 and you've won 2, if that's the case for Ben Roethlisberger. For Kurt Warner, it'd be winning 2, playing in 3, but his statistics have been alarming when he plays. So both these guys have an argument with their second Super Bowl win, either guy, that they must jump into that area of the great Super Bowl quarterbacks. Now, they're not in the top 5. Neither one of them, in my opinion, are in the top 10 right now, because we had a guy like Jim Kelly who went to 4 and lost 4, but Jim was a special player. People say, well, they were losers, but how tough is it to get to 4 in a row? So you could throw Jim Kelly in there. I don't have Jim in my top 10, but I could make an argument that even though he didn't have his games, and this doesn't have anything to do with the playoffs or the regular season, this is Super Bowls. He took his team to 4 Super Bowls, but I think you got to win one or multiple to be in the top 10 of all-time Super Bowl quarterbacks. So Roethlisberger and Warner with the win do qualify for that, and they could jump up ahead of guys. I got some guys in my top 10 and a bonus. Phil Simms won 1 and an MVP. He's my bonus pick of the top 10. He's that extra guy because his numbers, he picked the biggest game to have his best game of his career with an MVP. He was so accurate in the game. He only has 1, but he played in that one, got the Super Bowl, and got the MVP. So Phil Simms was at his best in those games. So however you want to decide what puts your guys in the top 10, with Ben Roethlisberger winning, especially if he's able to win and get an MVP award, then he's got 2 Super Bowls in the first 5 or so years of his career. We got to start to take notice. And if Kurt Warner does, and he wins another MVP, he's won 1 in the year they won the Super Bowl, then you're looking at 2 MVPs, 2 rings. Yes, both of those guys, in my opinion, would jump into that top 10, top 12 list of all-time Super Bowl quarterbacks, because you're talking about multiple. But the guys, to me, when you look at it, and so I think these guys are more concerned with the winning than worrying about what we think as prognosticators or so-called experts on why we put somebody in the top 10 of QBs of all time. A couple guys are in my top 10. Joe Namath, Super Bowl III, won it. Greatest upset of all time. I got him in my top 10, down the list of my top 10, but how significant it was, a guaranteed win in the greatest Super Bowl upset of all time, and he went out and put an MVP performance on it. Doug Williams is in my top 10. Was a Super Bowl MVP, won the Super Bowl, got his ring there, had an unreal game, played great, but the significance of what he did in the Super Bowl is the only African-American quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl ring, still, after 42 Super Bowls. And not only that, but to play so big and to give so many quarterbacks and to change the face of the way people looked at African-American quarterbacks who were not getting the credit they deserve for being great players. And Doug Williams changed the face of that and gave African-American quarterbacks and all quarterbacks everywhere to take notice and realize, man, this is a great inspiration. And I love Doug Williams, not only the way he played, but what he stood for, and his poise and his confidence, and the way he played under some times when it was very, very difficult. And he not only managed off the field storm and all the questions, but he managed to go out there and play a great game. He's in my top 10. I can round out my top 5. There's other guys who made it. Bart Starr, first 2 Super Bowls. He won 2 MVPs. He was 2 for 2. You got to put him in there. But I go through my list. Montana's first, and Montana needs to be first. 3 Super Bowl rings, 4 Super Bowl rings, 3 MVPs. Nobody's been more calm, cool, collector, has more ice in his veins than does Joe Montana. Second, Terry Bradshaw. He's got 4 Super Bowl rings. And you know what? A lot of people overlook Terry because so many great Hall of Fame players on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, and with that steel curtain D. But Bradshaw won 2 MVPs and 4 Super Bowls. He was 4 for 4, and he had 2 MVPs. So Terry Bradshaw deserves more credit. He's in second. I got Troy Aikman in third. 3 Super Bowls, won them all, came away with a couple MVP awards also. And I think he's the most underrated good quarterback of all time. I still don't think he's in the Hall of Fame, so you can't say he's that underrated. But I still don't think Troy Aikman gets enough credit for being a guy who would take no nonsense, and he was able to balance a bunch of egos and still go out there and play unselfish football. He wanted to win. For me, 4 is Tom Brady, and I think Brady can end up with 5. He won 3. He's number 4 on my list. Heck, he can't even grow a beard yet, and you'll see that in my blog. Yet he's still got 3 Super Bowl rings. He knows how to go out and win MVPs. Got a couple of those also. Tom Brady's special. After coming back from this injury, we'll see if Brady can get up there and be with Bradshaw and Montana. And 5, Elway. John Elway went to 5 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. Got himself an MVP award. Those first 3 that the Broncos lost, they had no sniff of the Super Bowl if John Elway was not their quarterback. They weren't able to win. But then John, 8 years after his last loss, he came in there and won back-to-back Super Bowls. The perseverance of John Elway puts him on that list. Then you round it out with Doug Williams, Bart Starr, and then I have Joe Namath at 8. I mentioned him. Jim Plunkett, man who would never go away. Great comeback story. Jim just kept grinding. And talk about a guy who had to manage personalities. Jim Plunkett was a guy nobody really talked about, who was able to win 2 Super Bowls and an MVP. And then finally Bob Greasy. And one of those MVP. Bob didn't win the MVP in either game. They didn't throw much. He's not a statistic maven and wasn't a guy who's going to throw out great numbers. But he still won 2. He didn't lose any. And he won one of those Super Bowls when a tremendous amount of pressure was on because they were battling for an undefeated season throughout. So that's my list, and obviously Phil Simms is the bonus guy. You got your Stablers and your Steve Youngs, and Peyton Manning still. A couple of years from now, we may talk about something different, or Eli Manning. But Warner and Roethlisberger can jump in there for consideration if either one of them win their second Super Bowl. But I don't think you can argue with my first 4 or 5. But you know what? There's going to be some old school people out there say, what about Johnny Unitas? And I could throw Johnny in there as well. I'm Sean Salisbury for Open Sports, a day closer to the Super Bowl.
Think you can complete the drive? Play today and get an automatic entry to win daily prizes, 2 tickets to the big game, and a brand new car. Start your drive today at opensports.com.